Tech Sergeant Battle from 301st Intelligence Squadron. So I will preface this with my personal opinion that diversity is still an exception and not the rule in the Air Force. And this is me being in only 7.5 years, things I've experienced. But I also feel like we're at a paradigm shift where we are seeing all these different things. I have a chief, a female chief in security forces. I have 2 black or African American, I don't know how you identify, chiefs up here. So 3 out of the 4 people don't fit the mold of what the Air Force I thought I was coming into was going to be. But how do we make sure that it continues? What can I do at where I'm at now until I reach to where you're sitting to make sure that it is a culture shift and not just a buzzword? Like, are there any things in your personal experience where you've made sure that, I mean, there are times that I feel like the exception. There are times that people question if I got my position or I got my authority from being a black female. Like, how do you ensure that that's not how people take, that's why, that's not to single you out.
So I think, so for me, there's 2 different things that kind of resonate with me with that question. And one of them is, how do you yourself kind of carry yourself and how do you handle that, right? Kind of the side eye or the questioning or the doubting or whatever else that may come. And then what can you do moving forward, right? To build the force that you're proud to be a part of and you see yourself in and you see your future in, right? I kind of hear those 2 things. Is that about hit the mark? Mm-hmm. Okay. On the first part of that, and then I'll actually open up the floor for the rest of the question. I'm not going to take both of those parts, but I am compelled to answer the first part of that. So I will tell you my deeply held personal belief, and it took me a long time to get to this, because I came in and it was everything is questioned. Oh, you got this because, right? And everybody would put some disclaimer on any of my success. And it never had anything to do with my grit. It never had anything to do with my performance. It never had anything to do with how good I was at my job or how hard I worked, right? It never had anything to do with that. It had all these other things associated with my gender, right? Not anything else, right? Professional related, or just kind of the being and who I am and what I bring to the fight, what I bring to the team. It took me a long time to realize that light that's kind of always on you, right, that's being shined on you when you are a minority in the room, when everybody kind of looks to see how you're going to react to something or looks to see what you're going to do or notices you more because you stand out for whatever reason, right? There are so many things that could make you a minority. It might be something, outside of the demographics that we've been talking about. It might be that you're coming back from a DSD and you're coming back into your career field, right? And you're looked at sideways and everybody's looking to see how you're going to carry yourself and what you're going to do. I think it can be so many things, right? But that light is shining on you. I, for a lot of years, took that to be negative, right? I internalized that to be something negative. It took me, and then it was like a light switch when it flipped, and it changed my whole perception. When that light is shining on you, you get to lead. And you get to lead. You get to lead sometimes, arguably, sooner than your peers that don't have that attention on them do, right? You get to show up and grind, and sometimes that actually affords an opportunity to be recognized earlier and sooner than folks that don't have that attention on them, right? And that's not me saying I think it was okay that I got told to my face, you don't belong here, right? Or when I went to step away from security forces, I got told by my security forces manager, you're dead to me, don't ever come back for anything because you're leaving your beret. Right? There's like nonsense things that happen, right? I don't think that things have to be unnecessarily challenging just because. I find that to be ridiculous. Life and serving and combat are hard enough. We don't need to make it any harder to develop grit in people. Like, life will do that for us. But for me, that mindset and that shift in my own head and in my heart and how I perceived things, it did wonders for me. When I just stopped and I realized, hold on, like, having that extra attention, having people notice that, and OG hit on it earlier, and I was getting all fired up when he was talking about it, like, it gives you an opportunity to shine because that light is on you, and I think that can help kind of reframe what could become a little bit negative in your own psyche, in your own mind.
Yeah, haters gonna hate. Like, that's just one thing that you ain't gonna get away from ever, right? So I think that was Cat Williams' quote. But it's really true, right? Like, you're never gonna make everybody happy, right? So I know for me, right, again, white airman, white chief, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to do me, right? And I'm going to be way ahead of everybody else, right? And whatever I'm doing in my squadron, I hope other people are looking like, holy cow, like I need to get on my D&I game, or I need to get on my this or that game because of what he's doing, right? Man, I hope there's black chiefs, superintendents that are like, who is this white dude talking all this D&I stuff? Like, I need to get back to whatever it is, right? Like, that's what I can do, right? And I can do as much as I can with the people that I got, right? Your influence is huge, right? All of you guys, especially where you're at, right? So that's me, right? That's what I can do personally to make a difference and make changes. And maybe it's not me that makes the change. Maybe it's the airmen that I have under me that I let do this, that, or the other, right? So I don't know, like.
But it's like, how do we make that? How do you make that the expectation and not like an exception? Like I expect a white chief to be up there talking to me about this is what matters. We need to be, we need to be more inclusive. How do we get to that point?
I think you deserve to be demanding customers, right? Like that is what your expectation should be. And if that's not what you're getting, then make it known, right? Because you deserve that. And you got to be demanding customers in order to get it. But I would also offer, moving forward, and I know I said I wasn't going to hit this part of the question, but I can't help it, and then I'll leave it be. But you also have got to develop your team, not just pockets of your team because you see yourself in them and you want to make sure, right, or you project your experience onto them, right? We can't do that. If all we do is seek out folks and we're developing them because they look like us and so we want to make sure that they have a path forward, that's not okay either, right? We've got to develop our team. And we've got to go back to what do we hold dear, what do we value when we have the conversations about who's ready for increased opportunity, this position here, this promotion here, and whatever else. We've got to establish what are those expectations, what are those standards, what are the things we're measuring everybody to. And I'm not saying don't mentor people, guys, and I'm not saying, oh, you look like, oh, you're a female defender, oh, I can't be your mentor because, I don't mean that either, right? But that commitment has got to be to the human beings that you serve and that you serve with. That's what I'm saying.
I'm still racking my brain to try to answer your question without really. Yeah, I know, right? No, really, because I'm trying to look at it from my perspective at the same time, talking to a tech sergeant, right? Talking to you, and then, how do you not make this, what we've been discussing this last 12 months, not a buzzword that's going to fade, right? How do you really... I want to transition myself back like 10 years ago in your shoes, right? And I would just say probably just for you, just do the opposite of what I did as a young NCO because I care too much what people think. I say, you know what? Who gives a shit, right? Just do you. If this is a picture you want to see, right? Are you saying, you know what, by the time I become a chief master sergeant, I want this to be the norm, right? Then that's what you value. Then build that. I can tell you like, okay, well, I was a scared chicken head when I was you. I could not even talk. I could not even be in this room to ask those questions. 10 years ago, you would never ask me to sit on a panel. I like sitting in the back room where no one noticed me. I was a quiet airman, a quiet NCO. Just let me be, because guess what? I don't want to get myself out there because I don't want to be ridiculed, right? Because I think if I say something or pronounce something that you're not familiar with, I'll get laughed at, right? Oh, I just pronounced this. My kids make fun of me every single day when I say something like, well, that's not how you pronounce it, right? I care too much about what people think. Then a few years ago, I said, you know what? To hell with it. This is the Air Force I want to see. This is the Air Force I'm going to tolerate. These are going to be the people I'm going to choose to serve with and continue to serve with. If this is the formation I want to see a decade from now, the question is back at y'all. This is what I'm going to do to affect those change. When I'm asked to show up at a panel for my insight and my questions and my opinion, I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up and I'm going to let my voice be heard. And don't sit behind in the back room. There's plenty of seats at the table. You're welcome to dine. Now, the question is, are you bold enough? Are you courageous enough? As a United States Air Force Airman, are you bold enough to get your seat at the table? And if you can't do that, then your dreams, your ambitions will never come to fruition. It'll be the same old, same old. We had that one phase back in the 2000 and 2001 where somebody thought it was a good idea to put together this panel and do all these surveys that we had to pick, and then somebody got promoted doing all of this stuff, right? And then guess what? We're going to back to the old self. So again, I'm looking at y'all and everybody watching. Create the Air Force you want to see. If what we've seen the last 5, 10 years, if that's what we think is the best, then you know what? Yeah, let's keep doing it. But if we think there's a better way for us to be more unified out there, then that's what we need to, that's the hard conversations I want us to be having. Like, you know what? We know what we can be. We know how little we have, right? We know how dangerous we can be. And come on, those adversaries, yeah, I know we're trying to get our shit together now. Y'all watch us once we figure this part out, right? Well, you know what? Yeah. So I digress, but that's my charge to you, right? Be bold, be courageous, speak up, and get out and just take care of business.
Yeah. So, you know, my mom used to put it like this when I was growing up. Association brings on assimilation. Have you ever heard that before? So, how you associate with anybody is how they're going to assimilate to you. So when you talk about how would you be that example for others like you to follow, they're not going to follow you unless the assimilation of what you present yourself as is something that they can see themselves also in doing. And that starts with one word and one word only, and that is trust. You have to build trust in everything you do. People have to trust that they can trust you. And it really isn't about your gender. It's not about the color of your skin. It's not where you're from, your religion, and all these things. It's just about trust. You know, when I look back on the folks that either look like me, didn't look like me, what have you, they would have done nothing to be what I presented before them in being if they didn't trust me. Does that make sense? And I will tell you, because I built trust either directly or indirectly through my actions, I said, hey, you know what? Because people are watching you, right? Regardless if you believe it or not, folks watch you. We're in a fish tank. We talk about that in all these different leadership schools and steps. But you are in a fish tank always, no matter your rank, no matter your color, your gender, your persuasion. But people are not going to associate with you at all. They're not even going to want to be like you if you're not someone they can trust. So you have to build trust as you move on, ma'am. That's what you got to do. And what you will find one day, 30 years from now, whatever, you said 7 years, so 23 years from now, could you imagine? 23 years from now, you know, you could be sitting over here and be thinking about all the people, and by that time, you're not going to sit there and say, oh, it was a bunch of folks that look like me. You're not going to have that, in your hip pocket, I'm sure. But I guarantee you will have the story 23 years from now to say, you know what? Because I built trust, all caps, there was a lot of people that looked like me that wanted to assimilate to be like me because they've trusted in how I led them and how I helped them, which I believe is even more important to people than being led, is that how they were helped. Because that's what you really do if you're leading people. You're helping them. And I think we use leading a lot now to where leading becomes a buzzword, not really what it intends to be. But I think if you keep it simple, super, everybody remember KISS? I still believe in KISS. Keep it simple. Help them. Help your people through trust, and you'll be amazed the flock of folks that will follow you.
You guys have the most, I think. So just real quick, we used to play this game all the time. Prior PME instructor. So in ALS, we used to play the game like, hey, who was your first squadron commander? Who was your first squadron superintendent? Who was your first sergeant? Who was your first supervisor? Guess what? Every single person in that room knew who their first supervisor was. You know what I mean? Like, it's the supervisors that have the biggest impact in most people's lives, right? Like, it's crazy. So you guys are the start of it with all of this stuff. It's tech and below or whatever, right? Like, you guys are the ones building the trust or starting these things, right? So I can let it happen, but you guys got it, right?